and welcome to Sex Work and Love, a podcast about navigating personal relationships as an adult industry professional. I'm Delilah Saul, a filmmaker, writer, and sex worker based in New York City. If you want to support the show, you can now do so at a big discount. I've just lowered my Substack subscription price from $8 a month to $5 a month. And yes, if you already have a paid subscription, you already automatically received this discount. When I reach 20 paid subscribers, I'll be able to start releasing bonus content. So this season on the pod, I'm in conversation with the participants from my new film, Beloved, a documentary about the love lives of sex workers, which, by the way, is screening in Brooklyn on March 29th, alongside 2 other short films about sex workers by sex workers. If you'll be in New York at that time and you want to come, check out the episode description for the RSVP link, which has the details. Today's episode features Jessie, an incredible woman who actually started out as a listener of this podcast and ended up being someone I got to know in real life, which has been a reminder that I am incredibly lucky to be in community with the type of people who listen to this show. So Jessie and I both wanted her to participate in my film, but due to safety concerns, in the end, she elected not to appear on camera. She still wanted to share her story, though, and I'm really glad to have her on the show, because what happened to her is a clear illustration of how anti-sex worker bias often impacts people who are not even sex workers. And that is a topic I'm really passionate about, because what's behind anti-sex worker attitudes actually affects all women, femmes, queer people, and anyone of a marginalized gender. We will be discussing partner abuse today, so please take care while listening. Jessie, hi. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm really glad to be here and have an opportunity to talk about this.
You're a performance artist, so can you talk about what you do and how long you've been doing it?
I'm a circus performer, so a lot of burlesque and cabaret shows, in nightclubs, some corporate work, cruise ships, and I've been doing that for about 15 years.
I didn't know you performed on cruise ships.
Yes, I did one for 2 months. There's only so much sunshine and buffet food that you can have. I'm glad I got paid to be there.
Yeah, definitely. That's the way to do it. So you were in an abusive relationship for a while, and can you talk about how that impacted you as a performer?
So my performing and my career was something that I had always been proud of and that I loved to do. And in that relationship, my abuser really made me feel like it wasn't something I should be proud of, and actually it should be something that I was ashamed of. And so I really started to doubt myself.
He made you feel like your performer lifestyle or your performer identity is something you should be ashamed of. Can you say more about that?
A lot of the gigs I would do would be in burlesque clubs, and I would be in lingerie. He made me feel like it was unreasonable that I could be in a relationship and do that, and my partner would not have a problem with it.
So you're also a stripper and a go-go dancer. How long have you been doing that?
Prior to that relationship, I had worked twice at a lap dance club, and then I had worked as a go-go dancer for about a year. And then since leaving that relationship, I have worked more regularly as a stripper.
And when you say you worked twice at a lap dance club, do you mean you worked 2 nights?
Yeah.
Was that an issue?
Absolutely. He would say things like, you get naked for other men, why won't you do it for me? He would use that to coerce sex out of me, and also just to make me feel like ashamed and that I had done something wrong. And also that I was now not a trustworthy person because I had done that.
Earlier in the season, we had a therapist on who works with sex workers as clients, and that's something that she sees not infrequently. Sex workers whose partners will use their job as leverage to try and coerce them into sexual acts. I've heard it from other people that I've interviewed. So you're not alone in that, but that's kind of even more terrifying that so many workers have had an experience like that. I had an ex like that who used it as like a shaming method for like, oh, well, you get undressed for other people, so why should you be entitled to privacy around me kind of thing. Which is psycho. So for listeners, if there's somebody in your life talking to you like that, big red 5-alarm fire bells. What was it like for you in that relationship to deal with that?
A lot of this relationship was happening during COVID, so I was also unemployed. I was mostly cut off from my friends and my family, so he really became my whole world. His narrative of me really became all I was hearing. And because I didn't have my job, my friends, and my family to ground me back into reality, I really started to believe everything he was saying about me. I really felt like I needed to change, and I really did need to be ashamed of my work.
A common misconception about people who've experienced abuse is this idea that like we're all people who are not confident to begin with, but that's not true. And for people who don't understand abusive relationships, who might feel inclined to comment on it, just spend 30 minutes Googling these dynamics, why abusive relationships work or how they work, because what's really common is that some loser sack of shit sees your beautiful shining confidence and wants to drink from that cup, but they're a vampire, so they're like drinking from a cup of your blood forever.
Yeah. We met because he hired me to do aerial for a shoot, and so my work was what originally drew him towards me. So now when we got into the relationship and it became a problem, it was quite confusing for me because it was something that he obviously enjoyed initially. They see the light in you, and they see that you have this thing that obviously drew them to you, and they are then fearful that it will draw other people to you. And it, of course, is just their own insecurity. And, by making me constantly be on the defensive, I never had a chance to realize that he was the one who was cheating.
Classic.
Yeah, it's a classic move.
Wow. I didn't know that you guys met when you were doing aerial.
Yeah.
As you know, that's so common for strippers. Like, a client will meet you in the club and start out as a customer, and then some romance develops and they turn into a boyfriend or somebody you're dating or whatever, and then all of a sudden they have a problem with you dancing, even though that's the context they met you in. And clearly something they participated in because they came to the club to begin with.
Yeah, it really is just about wanting control and dominance over me and not wanting me to have any independence.
Gross.
Yeah.
Did returning to sex work ever cross your mind?
The thought absolutely did not cross my mind. It just would have seemed actually just completely inconceivable given the problem that he had with me returning to performing, even to having a job, period. Yeah.
It's wild how when you're in this kind of relationship, eventually you become the cop in your own head.
Yeah. The even now I'm almost like laughing because it's so inconceivable. It would have been absolute pandemonium if I had suggested something like that.
Sure. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It seems like something that even if you were thinking about it, you probably would have had to do in secret.
Yeah, I mean, there was no secret. There was no secret because my entire life was expected to be open to him.
So you said you were unemployed in that relationship, and now he's basically coming for your forms of employment. So I'm curious, was he supporting you financially? What was the financial situation?
So I did move into his apartment during COVID, and he was paying the rent, which became another thing that he then held over me.
So horrible. Like, oh, because I'm offering you financial stability or a roof over your head, I get to dictate, which is not okay.
Yeah, and I think also for me, I've always been so independent, so that when I was in a situation where he was paying the rent, I did feel like now I owe him something, and I owe, I guess, to be who he wants me to be, or, yeah.
Yeah, which makes sense. Like, that line of thinking, especially in capitalism, in a society that tells us that, you know, if money's involved, it has to be transactional.
Right.
Which just isn't true. A real supportive partner who has the means to take care of you financially and offers to do so will say something like, you know, it's fine if you want to make your own money, or if you want to return to working at any time, and whatever kind of work you do is fine with me, and I'm still happy to give you some money. Like, that's real partnership. That's real teamwork.
Yeah. He was also spending money on my credit card, and I went through all my savings during that period of time. And I did have a little bit of unemployment, but once that ran out, I was really trying to get other jobs, and he made it so difficult. And I think he knew that me working again was a step towards me leaving him. He went through my phone. He would, if I had a job, he would follow me there.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I had a gig, because when I started to perform again, I was only taking the very corporate gigs where I'm in like a full leotard. It was a baby shower, and I'm like, he can't have a problem with me doing a baby shower. And he followed me there, waited outside, got drunk, and fought with me the whole way there. The minute I stepped out, started fighting with me again.
I'm so sorry. I've been stalked too by abusive exes, and it's yeah, that's terrifying. Like, that's really crazy behavior. And also just want to touch on, as a performer, how much it fucking sucks when your partner ruins your gig vibe for you. It really, really sucks.
Yeah, he would actually make it so unpleasant that it was like I didn't even want to do it. Yeah. And there's also the safety thing. I'm hanging in the air, and so I would go in feeling so agitated and upset and unable to focus, which is quite dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it affects the quality of your performance.
Of course, yeah.
And yeah, at the end of the day, it's like, it affects you wanting to be there. I've been
Yeah.
there too, where I'm like, I don't even fucking care about this gig because I'm so dysregulated and so upset now that, like, there's not going to be any joy in it for me.
Yeah. And he would make a lot of things, not just performing, but seeing friends, doing things that I loved. He would make it so unpleasant.
My cat. She's yelling at him for you.
Yes. Yeah, he would make those things just so unpleasant that it just became easier to not do them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I know you also had other jobs that were not performance gigs during this period.
So in an attempt to find something that he wouldn't have a problem with, I got a job as a personal trainer, and he would always grill me on who I had been training when I would see him afterwards. And so I found myself trying to avoid training men so I didn't have to explain that to him. And he would also, you know, if I was done with work at 3 and I called him at 3:15, he would start a fight with me over why I didn't call him right when I got off of work. He would fight with me before I had to go in, so I was late. I also had a job as a bartender, and he would follow me there, sit at the end of the bar, and just get progressively drunker with a scowl on his face. And he would constantly accuse the manager of flirting with me, and it just was another thing where it just became easier just to quit, to just not have to deal with it.
Your situation was like really extreme.
It was quite extreme. I think that it reached a level that I don't think it would have had COVID not been happening. I never would have given up performing, because him and I were with each other pretty much 24/7 for the first year and a half, that when I started working again, I think he really thought I wasn't going to go back to work, that I was just going to live with him and just take whatever like scraps he would give me. I think that's really what he thought. And so it came quite a shock to him when I started working again.
Because he's fucking delusional.
Yeah. I think he really had this mentality that he was such a gift to my life
course.
And yeah, he really didn't understand why I would want to go back to performing or why I would want to have a bartending job.
Like why you would want to have a life.
Yeah, like why he kept saying, well, you could just work for me.
Ugh.
And it made no sense to him why I would want to work at a bartending job making, whatever I was making instead of just existing in his world.
Like a specimen.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Misogyny makes partners of all genders feel entitled to stand in the way of somebody's ability to make money and be independent in any way. You weren't stripping when he met you. You were doing aerial, and it's such a strong example of how this bias doesn't just stop with sex workers, and that's why it's so important for everyone to understand anti-sex worker stigma, because it's a stigma that can follow you no matter who you are, especially if you're a femme or a woman. Even if you've never done sex work a day in your life.
I've heard countless people who have been called whore by an abusive partner who have never actually done sex work. Mm-hmm. And it's still the same, that stigma carries over for sure. It's
this reminder that, like, when you're calling somebody a whore disparagingly, it's this reinforcement of the idea that anybody who does do sex work is worthless and disposable. And so by placing you in that category, I'm placing you in a category of people that I am insisting have no value and that I know that society doesn't value. And it's, I really want to encourage listeners to not be insulted by being called a whore, but instead to recognize the mechanisms behind it. And if you are a whore, we love you. So how are you doing now?
I'm definitely doing better. It's been almost 4 years since I left the relationship, and I definitely feel financially stable. It was definitely a process, and stripping has definitely helped me to reach that. But it is still hard, and I have not dated a whole lot in these past few years.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah.
It's a lot to process and get through, and
yeah.
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 What are you up to these days?
Yeah, I'm performing still. I teach classes now.
Cool.
Yeah.
What kind of classes do you teach?
I teach aerial classes.
That's so good. What kind of aerial do you do, by the way?
I do primarily aerial hoop, and I also do silks, aerial rope, and some partner work.
Is aerial hoop the same thing as lyra?
Yeah.
That's my favorite one.
Yeah.
So cool. I'm really happy you're doing better and that you're doing what you love and that you're free.
Thank you. Yes, I am free. Yeah.
Okay, so lastly, before you go, as a palate cleanser, I want to know, if your cat had an online dating profile, how would he describe himself in his bio?
Okay. Expert snuggler, mediocre hunter, always down for an adventure.
Okay, we love him.
Yeah, he's a good boy.
Is that your type?
I mean, perhaps, yes. I definitely need an adventure buddy.
He sounds like he's a much better dating profile than your ex would have.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Jessie, for sharing your story with us and for spending your time here today.
Thank you for having me.
If you like the show, please leave a rating and review. It really helps. Also, share the podcast with a friend. If you want to support my work, you can become a free or paid Substack subscriber. That link is in the episode notes. And if you want to get in touch, email me at info@outlawmediacompany.com. Thanks for listening, and I'll meet you back here next time for more Sex Work and Love.
All about my Friday night money, honey.